Welcome back to Resilience plus Rise, the space where we excavate the extraordinary from the heart of the challenge. I'm your host, Thomas Carrier, and if you're feeling the pull towards a deeper purpose, a more impactful legacy, beyond the peaks that you've already conquered, or you're in the valley of striving towards your goals, you're in the right place. Because just like 26.2 transformative miles I explore in my book, life's most significant chapters often begins when we dare to redefine our finish line. And of course, it's available on all the major platforms. Today we invite Dr. Sophie Jablonsky back again.
Thank you.
Welcome back. And her conversation yesterday, what we had was very dynamic and interesting. And I realized that there is much more to what Dr. Sophie has to offer. She's a founder, as I mentioned yesterday, she's a founder of Flourish Financially programs. This program, she guides individually, especially women, towards financial freedom and empowerment. She blends the insight from positive psychology and financial well being. She helps the participant to rewrite the limiting beliefs and embrace an intentional growth and craft a mindset that supports a long term success. Today, we will be talking specifically from this platform point of view, using the power of science as a mindset and how to flourish financially. So, Sophie, welcome to Resilience Plus Rise, the podcast.
Thank you again for having me. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. So, Dr. Sophie, you come, as we spoke yesterday, is that you come from a background of the environmental engineering,
Yeah.
and then you got into positive psychology, but now you have created a niche in creating financial freedom, and I believe you've got a major course taking place by end of this month for your products. But before we can go into that, tell me, why was this important about getting into this aspect of the financial freedom and empowerment?
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes a bit even beyond this idea of financial freedom. I mean, it's really how we as humans relate to money and
Mhm.
to finances, which I discovered is really a subject that touches most of us, but sometimes we are living that chapter very unconsciously. So it depends exactly what kind of path we're on, but definitely on my path, there was a moment when I had to face the reality, which was that up till that point, I had not really taken care very well of that chapter. It didn't mean in this particular moment that I had issues with what the numbers were telling me. And I think this is also what we see with a lot of the clients that we have in our program, Flourish Financially. But what was going on was much more about the emotions and the thoughts and what they were actually leading me to do or not to do. And what I realized is that as some people, because when you look into the subject, there are different profiles, I had been really avoidant in this chapter.
Okay.
And it's not something that's particularly original for women in particular, because what is going on is there is a whole set of narratives about women and money that we have very often absorbed without realizing, and that is coming from our education, our families sometimes, our cultures, and societies where we are living.
Hmm.
So it really mirrors the kind of work that we were talking about previously in regards thoughts and beliefs in general that we can have about ourselves, but this time really through the specific perspective of money and finance. And why it matters? It matters because for me, at that particular moment in my life, I decide maybe I want to take a different professional journey. And in particular, I thought, okay, why not to go down the road of becoming a coach and setting up my own business? I'm not the only one doing that. Very often you do a certification for coaching, but most of them don't really teach us what it means to become a business person and to be a business owner and to have that in a way to make it with success. Now, there are many definitions of success, but
Mm-hmm.
for most of us, it means that we want that to be also a financial success.
Of course.
And it's really putting things then in a different perspective because suddenly you become very sensitive to that subject, to say the least. So what happens is that a lot of the thinking that we've been basically pushing down, not observing, not looking at, is coming right through the surface. And we can be in a bit of a danger to let that lead us in the direction that we don't want.
This sounds very good, but I always, or that's my belief. Again, it's my belief, is that our purpose, like when I heard you talking, there is a lot of passion, there's a lot of drive that you want because that's what you believe in about financial freedom. And it's not only about you, but helping the others also.
Yeah.
But what I always say is that our purpose usually comes from at times wherein we are hurt the most, wherein things don't work out the way we want it to be. And
Mhm.
that's when we learn the lessons and we say, hey, listen, if I've learned this lesson, why can't I tell it to others also so that they will not go through the same hurting? So, has something like that happened with you, Dr. Sophie?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm thinking about what were my big pain points in terms of money. I
Mm-hmm.
think what happened is more that I realized in the end that it's really not about the numbers. And I had to go through certain experience to realize that. So to me, what it really, one of the turning points was, of course, starting my own business and realizing, well, I had been quite um, what I had assumed to be financial independence. It is earning my own salary, earning a good salary in my organization was actually also what made me dependent from that salary to feel secure. So I was
Mm-hmm.
feeling a lot of emotion of security in the fact that I was receiving a regular salary that was plentiful in the sense that I was not worried about whether it would cover my costs or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I could leave that chapter, leave its own course without me paying attention. Now, when I decide I want to start my own business, suddenly I have to make it happen for myself. And that's very scary. So there was definitely the pain point of fear. But what happened more or less at the same time was I also experienced the bereavement around several people in my life that were really close to me and
Okay. Sorry.
learning to deal with managing an inheritance. And that was, you could say expected or unexpected. It's hard to say because you know the people in, I knew these people and I knew that they were considering me to be, inheriting from them. But I didn't have the idea of what was the magnitude of that. And especially what I didn't consider is what I would feel when this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And although there was a significant gift there, I didn't feel secure. I still
Okay.
felt extremely insecure. And that really brought to the surface once again this idea that how curious is that? I thought knowing that would make me feel better. but it doesn't. So what is it? And I thought, okay, so now I really have to take this matter into my own hands. And I thought, how can I do that? I felt super unequipped. And there came all the narratives about what I knew about finances and money, which I thought was not a lot, almost
Mhm.
nothing. What I had been taught about talking about it. Who can I talk to? Well, it's not polite to talk about it. It's not something you should talk about. It's not something women should talk about. And also that it's not something that women need to really pay attention to. So I had
Hmm.
delegated a lot of these financial decisions to my partner in my relationship. And it's only at that moment of my life that I was able to see that. And when I saw it, I thought, wow, I mean, it's really interesting. I think this was not just happening in my couple, but because I was reflecting around the subject of money, it really gave me this desire to think, okay, how can it be another way? It's time to take charge. So it was time to take charge professionally. It was time to take charge financially. It was
Okay.
really time to take charge of my destiny.
Hmm. Interesting. So now that you're in that particular graph, because I always believe is that we are always learning. And a lot of times, even though we believe that we do know things, there are more opportunities to learn. But until now, from where you started, where you realize that you need to take more control of your destiny, and specifically the financial aspect of it.
Yes.
If somebody was to ask you among the listeners that, so Sophie, you are now talking about financial freedom, what could be around 4 or 5 steps that you could suggest? Here again, I'm not asking about advice, but
Yes.
what are the 3 or 4 steps that comes immediately to your mind, that when you're talking, because this you would have spoken at some point of time or the other, but that could the listeners could glean or become more smarter.
Yeah. It's very interesting because actually our program is incidentally organized around 5 steps. So it's almost like you're asking me a little bit, okay, so how can I go about that, right?
Hmm.
What we propose there is really a transformation. And I think this is also a transformation that I have been going through myself. But at the time, I didn't find the resource that was structured enough to take me through this.
Okay.
And I like structure. I think this is also what comes from probably my background. I like
Okay.
science. So I approach things in a certain way. And
Hmm.
that's really the heart that I put in that program when I created this with my partner, Mina Schmidt, who is herself coming from a background of finance, investment. And so we bring together, really together, the positive psychology, but also the financial planning tools. So it's a
Okay.
combined journey. So now let's go back to the 5 steps that you are asking and that we in that case, we are proposing. We start by looking at the past, we start
Hmm.
by looking at the heritage, and we propose a deep dive in a way, an observation of where are we coming from. But here it's really illustrated from the point of view of money. So we can start doing that by simply thinking who was I around when I was growing up that seemed to have influenced me in terms of what they thought about money, how they spoke about money, how they behaved around money. So it can be things that have been said, but it can also be things that have been, absorbed, like maybe by talking about other people in the family or the other adults that were around where we were growing up. And most of us, we have not done this exercise. So there are a few tools that we use in the program. The point is really to start and really poke around to see what emerges from this moment of our life. And
Hmm.
what we say in general is like our heritage, perhaps, to
Oh,
bring it to the surface of the awareness. because
Okay.
without being aware, we cannot really address it. So some people discover very interesting things, and definitely I did when I did that, and I continue to do, because journaling can help a lot. So writing about that, and we do that with prompted journaling, for example, that
Mm-hmm.
helps to make this emerge and realize, oh, wow, I didn't remember that, or I thought it was like that, but maybe it was not.
Okay.
So that's step one. Step two is about the present, and it's really to try and be honest about where we are right now. So it's the observation at this moment in time. How do I feel about my financial situation? What do I think about money? What do I think about, various subjects that relate on this? So for example, it could be also asking yourself and trying to make it emerge where you are in the moment. What do you think about rich people? What do you think about poor people? What do you think about work? Is there a link between money and work? Is there a link between money and love? What do you think? So it's really about making, again, this emerging of what has been hidden under the surface, to bring it to the surface so that you're more aware of where you are right now.
Okay.
But in that specific journey, we also look at the numbers, and that's really important. Many people are not comfortable looking at their own numbers.
True.
Many people prefer not to look, not to know, and live in a state of fear and anxiety when it comes to their numbers and what's going on in their financial life. So what we do there is that we help the participants, almost like a hand-holding process,
Nice.
to create their own balance sheet, to create where they're at in life. And it's especially important because if you want to be wealthy, let's put it that way, whatever that means for each of us, if you want to be wealthy, you need to be thinking like the wealthy.
True.
And what happens is that to do that, there are certain perspectives that are not conducive to that. And one of them is that thing that happens to a lot of us when we don't pay attention, which is focusing on what comes in and what comes out. Like, if you want, what happens in a month, flow in, flow out. It's only one perspective. But another equally, if not more important perspective is that of your net worth. It's that of looking at where you're at now in that way. Okay, this has been in a way coming from your story and your past. This is where you're at now. But what about the future?
Hmm.
And so this perspective is really crucial. That's the second step. The third step, we go deep in emotions. Okay, we wait a little bit. We don't start by that because it's a topic that, well, people rarely really associate directly with money. But of course, when you read even just a little bit about it, you realize money is extremely emotional. And most of us, we have an inkling that when we make financial decisions, yes, we look at the numbers, but yeah, it's quite emotional too.
It's an energy. That's as I always put it as.
Some people say that, right? So it's also, and so in that third step, we really spend some time trying to assess how we can make our emotional intelligence emerge and apply it to the subject of finance. So we cover intelligence in the sense of what our emotional literacy around money, what are the typical emotions, what is the balance of these emotions? Are they intense? Are they more smooth? Are they positive? Are they negative? What do we think about that? And also, we're thinking in terms of flexibility, because emotional flexibility, as we've discovered from positive psychology, is as important, if not even more important, than emotional intelligence. So how can we apply that to our relationship with money is really important.
Hmm.
And another final layer that we try to bring into that reflection is also how this emotional dimension is also very often linked to morality. And we need to find a way to observe that, because many of us are, for example, feeling shame, and
Mm,
then we are ashamed of being ashamed. And or we're thinking, if we're feeling excited or joyful about money, that somehow it's bad. So there's a lot of morality that can be also brought as almost a second layer to that emotional conversation.
interesting.
Yeah. And that's the steps 4 and 5 are really about looking forward. So with step 4, we look at the vision. So we build a vision for the financial future. We really use the tools of positive psychology and coaching. What is your best possible self in terms of money, in terms of finances? Where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10, 20 years at the time of your death? Who will be around? And then we place this in the landscape of your personal finances. What does it mean? Like, what really matters? And this really helps to also think in terms of like values, in terms of or even your character strengths, like who you are, right? How you
Wonderful.
showing up in the world. So all of this illustrated in the concept of money. And the step 5 is the action plan. So action is the last.
Okay.
Action is after all of that. It doesn't mean it's not important. It's extremely important, because as we know, vision without action is not like so useful, and action without vision, well, it's also
Yep.
not so great, right?
True.
So kind of comes together as a sort of a personalized action plan on personal finance that is both very pragmatic and can be quite detailed in terms of, for some people, it's about having a portfolio of investment. For some people, it's maybe how they see themselves securing their retirement or other things. But it's also very much about the thinking that they want to have about money from now on. And that's why we call it not an action plan, but we call it a financial flourishing philosophy. It's your
Beautiful.
life.
Wonderful. And you had mentioned that you are having this session going to start somewhere in the next few weeks. So, can you tell me more about these sessions? Is it going to be online? Is it going to be kind of evergreen type of project? What exactly, or if people want to get into it? And guys, I'll be putting out Dr. Sophie's links down below in the comments, but please do tell us.
Yes, of course. So Flourish Financially, the program, will start in September. It's organized in 5 steps, as in one step, one module per month for 5 months. So it will
Mm,
last till March, early March next
okay.
year, 2026. And the sessions are held in the group because we also see the power of having this exchange in the group. It's
Okay.
able to really harness the collective intelligence as well as your own reflections as they happen in the group.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also private personal coaching that is both with me and with Mina. So Mina more on the numbers and me more on the thoughts and the philosophy, if you want. And this is spread through the program. So to know more about that, I would suggest to really get on our website first, because we have a page that's about the program on flourishfinancially.org.
Mm,
And really, if you're interested, join the community. We have the Flourish Financially community, and we're going to have a few events before we launch the program so that people can get even more familiar if they're not sure by just reading the web page. And this is happening in mid-September. So get on the mailing list and you'll get all the detail. Is probably the most simple. But if you want already more personalized interactions, we also offer a few consultations where I'm here, Mina is here, and we discussed with the person whether this approach can fit them. I believe it's really powerful and it fits a lot of people, but they also have to know that.
Wonderful. So, guys, if y'all are listening to this and y'all have reached to this point of the conversation, if money is a concern, do reach out to Dr. Sophie or go as per the website she has mentioned, Flourish Financially. Com or org,
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 org.
org.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
do reach out to them. It could be quite beneficial. So see how that works around. So Dr. Sophie, with this, I would like to tell you thank you for your space and time. It has been a wonderful opportunity to know more about how your mentally you can work around to build up your financial aspects of it and the emotions which is involved in growing that aspect of it. So I sincerely wish you all the best once your course begins. And guys, again, do connect with Dr. Sophie and see where that would lead to. Thank you again, and have a good rest of the week.
Thank you very much, Thomas, and thank you to all the listeners, of course.